Hey, do you find yourself in the same relationships over and over and over and over and over again? Someone's always cheating on you, or maybe someone is always abusing you, or someone keeps controlling you, or like maybe you keep finding someone that is very, very similar to your mom, and you don't know why. You just keep ending up in the same type of circumstance all the time. Well, you might be what I consider cage bound, and you might want to listen to this episode. This is Running with Scissors. We are in episode 2 of a series called Cagebound, talking about trauma. So you might want to buckle up for that. We go for rides. Well, I drive. You ride with me. I'm a safe driver though. So you might want to listen to episode 1 first before you check in here. You ready? Let's do this. Okay? All right. All right. So as I said, I am a safe driver. I am recording now. We are parked. Car is now in reverse. This is a hands-free recording, so phone is mounted. I do not touch the phone while I am driving at all. I do not stop the recording until the car is in park and shut off. Here we go. Usually I am commuting to and from work. Today is, though, Saturday. And so we're not going to work. We're just going to go for a drive. As I said earlier, this is running with scissors. Running with scissors is a metaphor for living life recklessly. I do not do that anymore. But before, when I wasn't, going through the awesome therapy that I did, I was living life recklessly. I was living life as if I was a wild child. I made bad choices. I was not healed. I'm not perfect today, but I have come a long way. And I hope and pray that you either have come a long way too, or that you will come a long way. So while we're at it, in the beginning of this episode, I want to let you know I'm not a professional. I'm not a therapist, a psychologist, psychiatrist, anything like that. The only experience I have is my own personal experience. I did have 16 years of work experience as a chaplain assistant in the military, doing crisis intervention counseling and suicide intervention counseling. However, it's my personal experience that I rely on really when it comes to the topic of what we're talking about in this channel. And this is not a video for young people. Okay, so if you have kids around while you're listening to me, please make sure they are mature enough to handle the heavy burden of listening to things that have to do with trauma. We're going to be talking about emotional stuff. Okay, so just make sure that kids are not young. We don't want to be traumatizing them while we're talking about trauma. All right. We are safely driving. Okay, this is one of those videos also that you can put down while you're doing dishes or cooking or driving. So in episode 1, I used the example of my bird Corwin. And we're going to do that today too, because Corwin was my cockatiel, and he really was the inspiration behind this whole series called Cagebound. Corwin was a bird that I got. This is just a short recap, okay, real quick. Corwin was a bird that I bought off of Craigslist many, many years ago. I didn't realize until shortly after I got him that he was either he was abused in some way. It led to what is called Cagebound, which is an anxiety disorder in birds. So basically, he would not leave his cage. He was not socialized. He was very fearful. He tried to attack me the first time I stuck my hand in his cage. And his cage was filthy. It was really disgusting. And I talked about how it took a while for him to actually trust me, to kind of clean up a little bit of his cage, and then, but eventually he did choose to leave his cage. So, oh, that's me, oh my, yay. Okay, I passed a place and I thought it was my turn, but it wasn't. So, I'm sorry. Where was I? Yes. Eventually, he left his cage. It was all, in the end, Corwin became a happy bird. However, it did take a while. He was very fearful for a long time, and everything, the efforts I took were not, it was very hard. It was very hard getting him to trust me. It took a long time, but it was so worth it. It was so worth it. And watching that bird just come out of his shell and take a leap of faith, it was amazing. And I was so very proud of him. So eventually he did, like I said, he moved into a bigger cage. He trusted me enough that he moved into a bigger cage. It was healthier. At the time, I had 2 other birds. Corwin was my first bird. I ended up getting the other 2 birds to show him what other healthy birds looked like. What being a happy bird looked like. And these birds were very social. They were well handled. One was a Quaker parrot named Yoshi, and he really looked like the Mario Brothers character Yoshi. And the other was another cockatiel named Patrick, and they were so fun. If you've never had birds before, they're not for everybody, and birds are very finicky. They're kind of like cats. They pick their people, and if they don't like you, they may not ever like you. They can be a pain in the butt. But Yoshi was very obnoxious. He was loud, and he would let you know right away what he was feeling. And Patrick was a tender heart, just a sweet, sweet cockatiel. And then Corwin was the bird that I started with. He was the one that needed the help to trust. Corwin was my sweet baby angel. So anyways, I got these 2 birds, very different personalities, and I did that for a reason. I don't know if you guys can see this right now, but there's 2, 3, 4 wild turkeys crossing. We're going to have to let them cross. 5 wild turkey crossing. Oh, maybe, I guess these guys are not going to cross. Okay, they're not crossing. This is why we go on a ride. It's fun. All right. So these birds, their purpose was to teach Corwin how to be happy. And to teach him that it was okay. It was okay to be happy birds. And that there was such thing as happiness. Because Corwin, it seemed to me that Corwin didn't know what happiness looked like. He was severely traumatized. I don't know what happened to him before he met me, but I knew that he was terrified, and I knew that he was protective of his cage, and he did not trust. So I was able to get him into a cage that was clean and healthy, and he made a ton of progress. Excuse me. He made a ton of progress. I was very proud of him. The other birds, so they were clipped. They had their flight feathers clipped before they got to me, and I didn't keep their flight feathers clipped. When they got to me, I allowed them, once they were established in my home and we had learned each other, they learned house rules and boundaries, and they were safe. Trust was established and all of that. I allowed them to grow their flight feathers out so that they can fly in the house, and we all knew each other. So I let their flight feathers grow out, and they had the freedom to be out during the time that I was home. And they would only be in their cage when it was nighttime, or if I was not home, where I couldn't supervise them. So all was well. While I was home, cage doors would be open, and that included Corwin's cage door. So Corwin, though, took a long time to get comfortable with the other birds. He was always curious. He wouldn't quite say hello. He would just be kind of quiet in his cage. He would do his own thing, and the other birds would be doing their things together. They would be having fun. And then let's see, we're gonna come over here. So the other birds, they would have their own fun, just the two of them. And then eventually they would try to check out Corwin and ask Corwin what he's about. They'd go to his cage and climb on his cage and kind of look in on him and ask him what's going on. And Corwin would just kind of say, leave me alone. He was a bit shy. But then Patrick made his way into Corwin's cage and just kind of slowly introduced himself and then he would fly out. And then some days I would see Corwin kind of peek out of his cage. And I would find myself wondering, when is he going to do it? When is Corwin going to get the nerve to come out of his cage? Because seeing these birds having so much fun outside and seeing them living life free must really intrigue him. When is he going to do it? Let's go outside. Here we are. So one day I was, I think I was just cleaning up the living room or something. I was just doing some duties. And Yoshi and Patrick are out. And I'm just doing my thing. And then I hear something that sounds like, almost like a little helicopter. And I'm like, what the heck is that? And I turn around, and Patrick is flying. Not Patrick, I'm sorry, Corwin. Corwin is flying straight at me. And that's what I yelled. Corwin is flying. My freaking bird, my recluse bird, was flying. He made a decision to come out of his cage, flying, sounding like a helicopter in my house. And it was a huge thing. It's huge because to make that decision, to leave your cage, is to see your cage for what it is. When you're truly cage bound, and I'm not talking about an individual relationship being locked in just one single relationship. I'm talking about a mentality, a belief, a stronghold, a belief that you only deserve unhappiness. I'm talking about a life of hurt, a life of being told that you'll never be enough, and believing that. And so you stay in that. In order to fly out of that cage, you have to see the bars for what they are. You have to choose. You have to choose to leave that. And Corwin chose. And he didn't just hop on out of there. He flew with all his might. He didn't just step out. He flew with joy. And that is what it's going to take, because that's the kind of commitment you're going to need to get out of the cage and not look back. You're going to need to leave the cage as if you never belonged in it in the first place. You're going to need to believe that you are not a prisoner, you are not a wild animal, and you are not a monster. And you should. I can hear off in the distance somebody telling their kid, dig your heels in. Dig your heels in. It's almost as if they're listening right now. That's what I'm going to need you to do. I'm going to need you to dig your heels in. So before Corwin decided to fly out of his cage like a hero, he had to, basically he learned what it looked like outside, and sorry, I had to wait for somebody else to drive by. Okay, so as I was saying, he kind of mustered up the courage, right, to fly out there, because he saw Patrick and Yoshi out there. He saw that they were happy. Now, every day, Patrick and Yoshi were they were just having a blast. What I would do is I would open up the doors for all the cages, and Patrick, being the sweetheart that he was, he would wolf whistle at me, and I would tell him what a sweet boy he was. And I would always, there was a command to step up, and before the birds could come out of their cage, they would have to step up onto my finger, and I would take them out of the cage. They weren't allowed to just fly right out. So he would wolf whistle at me, and I'd say, what a good little boy, you're so sweet. And I would say, step up, and Patrick would step up onto my finger, and I would bring him out of his cage and put him up on top. And then I would go to Yoshi's cage, and Yoshi would be all ready the whole time while I was already paying attention to Patrick. Yoshi would be in the back saying, step up, step up, step up, step up, good boy, good boy. Yoshi was obnoxious. So then I would go to Yoshi's, I would do the same for him, let him out, and I would go to Corwin's cage, and I would say good morning to him. I would get all their food and make sure I cleaned out their cages, and just kind of do a morning routine like that. I'd put on some music, all of that stuff. So it was just kind of a routine, good morning kind of thing. And it was never like a super quiet house, because I did have my kids, and they were always either watching TV or laughing or fighting, and I was cooking, and it was quite a noisy house, and the birds would be like singing or dancing or something, and Yoshi would be stealing somebody's food and laughing about it, and Corwin would be in his cage watching all of this take place. before he found his happiness, he was observing. And he would just kind of just observe quietly. That's what Corwin did before he decided that he wanted to be happy. And that's what this is about. Now, you're not going to be happy every day, right? Nobody is guaranteed that ever in life. You're not guaranteed to be happy every day. But you do have a choice to have a fulfilling life. And Corwin was witnessing. He was witnessing what another type of life could be. Now, he already knew what his previous life was like. And I don't know, of course, we don't know what he was thinking, but we know what he witnessed and what he ultimately decided. He witnessed the other birds, and he witnessed how I and the kids treated him, and he ultimately made a decision to join us in this life outside of his cage. And so for my message to you, or in my message to you, I ask you to challenge yourself to look at the things that are holding you back from having a more fulfilling life. What are your strongholds? What are the lies? What are the lies that you have been believing about yourself? And what are the truths? And I want you to really ask yourself if you want to continue to live cage-bound. Because that's a choice. Once you realize that it's not really a protection, once you realize that you're really living in a cage, you can choose to still live cage-bound. But if you're gonna choose to fly out of that cage, you're gonna have to do it with all your heart. You're gonna have to do it with all your might. And you're gonna have to do it with joy. And you're gonna have to choose every day. And it's gonna be great. It's not gonna be easy, but it's gonna be great. It's gonna be freaking amazing, because you're gonna find out who you really are. You're gonna get to know that person better, because who you really are is not the person that's been in the cage this whole time. That person's just been learning how to survive. The person that's been cage-bound has just been trying to survive. Getting to know who you really are is going to be amazing. So let's do that in the next episode. Thank you for listening. Cagebound on Running with Scissors. Please hit like, subscribe, Share with your friends. Let me know what you think. If you have anything to share, if you have a story, let me know. Peace to you all. Bye.
Running with scissors, I clock out, hit the road. Same long drive, same old load. 40 minutes, maybe more, letting truth roll out the door. Backseat full of old ghosts, I know their names the most, but I'm not that kid no more. I've learned what healing's for. Yeah, I've been through the fire, now I know what I'm worth. Every mile I'm getting higher, every scar turned into work. Running with scissors, that was me before. Running with scissors, I don't run like that no more. I talk, I heal, I laugh out loud. I made it through the storm somehow. Running with scissors, I'm still here, still proud. Running with scissors. 20 years in Air Force Blue, carried weight then carried through. Still I'm learning how to breathe, how to let the hard stuff leave. Childhood hurt, PTSD, used to chase what chased me. Now I got my name back strong, and I've been singing it all along. Yeah, the past can knock, but it don't on my door. I got light in my hands now, I'm not hiding anymore. Running with scissors, that was me before. Running with scissors, I don't run like that no more. I talk, I heal, I laugh out loud. I made it through the storm somehow. Running with scissors, I'm still here, still proud.